Welcome to my YouTube channel, the Psychology Hub. Psychological tricks are tactics that people use to influence the behavior or thoughts of others. Here are 7 psychological tricks to watch out for. 1. The doorstep technique. This technique involves making a small request first and then making a larger request. The idea is that people are more likely to comply with the larger request if they have already accepted the smaller request. This is because they are committed and want to be consistent with their past behavior. For example, a seller might ask you to sign up for a free trial of the product before asking you to purchase the full version. 2. Door-to-door technique. This technique involves making the big request first, then the smaller one. The idea is that people are more likely to comply with the smaller request if they have declined the larger request. Indeed, the smaller claim seems more reasonable in comparison. For example, a charity might ask you to donate $1,000 to their cause, and when you decline, they might ask you to donate $10 instead. 3. Scarcity principle. This technique involves creating a feeling of urgency or scarcity around a product or service to entice people to buy it. The idea is that people are more motivated to act when they think something is rare or in high demand. For example, a store might advertise a limited time sale or a product that is only available in limited quantities. 4. Principle of social proof. This technique involves using social signals to influence people's behavior. The idea is that people are more likely to do something if they see someone else doing it. For example, a restaurant might put a sign in the window that says, "Our most popular dishes," to encourage people to order it. 5. The anchor effect. This technique involves using an initial number or value as a reference point for further decisions. The idea is that people tend to rely heavily on initial values when making decisions. For example, a store might list the original price of a product as $100, but then discount that product for $50. 6. The halo effect. This technique involves using a positive trait or trait to influence people's perception of other traits or characteristics. The idea is that people tend to assume that if someone has one positive trait, they must also have other positive traits. For example, if someone is considered attractive, they can also be seen as smart or kind. 7. Confirmation bias. This technique involves looking for information that confirms our existing beliefs and ignoring information that contradicts them. The idea is that people tend to look for evidence that supports what they already believe and discard evidence that contradicts it. For example, if someone thinks a certain political candidate is the best choice, they can just search for articles and opinions that support that candidate and ignore anything else. Negative. In summary, these 7 psychological tricks are often used to influence people's behavior or thoughts. By understanding these tactics, you can become more aware when they are used against you and make more informed decisions. The doorstep technique involves making a small request first, then making a larger request. This technique takes advantage of people's desire to be consistent with their past behavior. The opposite door technique involves making the big request first, then making the smaller one. This technique takes advantage of people's desire to appear reasonable and consistent with their past behavior. The scarcity principle involves creating a sense of urgency or scarcity around a product or service to entice people to buy it. This technique takes advantage of people's fear of missing out on something of value. The principle of social proof is to use social signals to influence people's behavior. This technique takes advantage of people's desire to mingle with others and be part of a group. Anchor effect involves using an initial number or value as a reference point for later decisions. This technique takes advantage of the tendency to rely heavily on people's initial values when making decisions. The halo effect is the use of a positive trait or trait to influence people's perception of other traits or characteristics. This technique takes advantage of the tendency that if someone has one positive trait, they must also have other positive traits. Confirmation bias is when we look for information that confirms our existing beliefs and ignore information that contradicts them. This technique takes advantage of people's tendency to look for evidence that supports what they already believe. Overall, being aware of these psychological tricks can help you make more informed decisions and avoid manipulation. By understanding how these tactics work, you can take steps to protect yourself and make choices that really work in your best interests.